of Meditations with Marigny. This morning is going to be a pretty short video. So I know that I'm live, but typically I like to go ahead and do the video just because of the fact that I know that I'm not really doing it to go live. I'm basically just doing it because I don't have any space on my phone. I got to do better with that, guys. I did sit down last night and I tried to delete some space, but I wanted to come on this morning because you guys know you've been on this journey with me in the process of my transitioning into my new teacher role. And I wanted to speak to the fact of knowing what your purpose is, like walking out your divine purpose on the earth. And the reason that I wanted to speak with you guys is because so many of us forfeit who we are and what we're supposed to be doing based upon our circumstantial situation. And what I mean by that is oftentimes we will get discouraged based upon how life has treated us, what things we've gone through. And, I have to say, I've been discouraged on times. And, it's a normal human process for us to feel that, to even sometimes suffer some level of depressed space. I won't say to be depressed, but I will say that it is a normal process to have all those emotions. But when you know what your calling is and you know what you have been called to do, one of the things about me is I am an encourager. God created me to pour into other people, to lift them up, to assure that they are empowered. And I want to share with you guys like something that touched me on yesterday. And I've had it happen with a couple of my students this year. You guys know I told you that I mostly have boys, and a few of my kids have come from maybe being in the alternative school. So they are acclimating back into the traditional school setting after having been in a school setting where it was for children who had done things that were beyond being in the traditional setting. And on yesterday, I ended up talking to a scholar, and he just came back. He was, just getting acclimated back into the school. And we were talking, and he was doing something that he shouldn't have been doing. And so my class, when they came into the classroom, they were all rowdy, and I made them line back up, and I made them go back outside my classroom. I stood outside the door, and I expressed to them that once you cross that threshold, this is what my expectation is. And I do not expect for you to disobey or to disrespect my classroom. And we just had a whole conversation. They came back in, they started doing what they needed to do, and he was a little rowdy. And he was like, I'm not concerned about being here. Like, I know what it's like to go somewhere else. And I said, well, I really want you to stay here. I really would love for you to remain in this environment. But if you feel more comfortable in another environment, sometimes that's what we have to do. And we have to help you to get to that place, right? So we had this conversation. I said, but I believe that you have the power to stay here. And so I just kind of began to encourage him, gave him a few more props and things of that in the classroom. And, he eventually turned around, did his assignment. He's very bright, baby. And we went on throughout the day. So when we transitioned, went to our next classes, another teacher brought him back to my class, and they said, can he just, can he sit here right now? He's just too hyper. He's not sitting down. He's not following instructions. So I said, well, let me talk with him. So we talked about it. I asked him, could he come in and have a seat? Because mind you, now he's in another class with different students. So, and what you have to understand in education is it's just like going to the gym. You're building a muscle with that student. You are exercising your professionalism, you're exercising strategies that help students to then build a muscle of how they operate and move in the world. Because now I'm dealing this side of this student is his social emotional side. This has nothing to do with his academia. But if I can't reach the social emotional side, I'm never going to be able to get to his academia side. I'm never going to get to what we call the pedagogical side of his teaching, to teach him the strategies that will help him to then grow and develop in English, math, science, social studies. And so he comes in, He's like, I wasn't even doing anything, this, that, and the other. I said, okay, well, that's fine. We're not going to worry about that. Remember, I told you every day is a new day. Every minute is a new minute. So if you come back and you start a clean slate, we're going to start with that clean slate. So he sits down. First of all, he's coming from math. I can't help a child with math. So, I said, well, I'm going to help you with what part I can. And so he was working on the assignment and everything. And then I gave him another assignment because since he wasn't here last week, he missed some of my work from last week. So I gave him a worksheet to work on and something kind of fun that the students did. I didn't want it to be too heavy, but I wanted him to be able to participate. And so, guys, he did the work, and then he said, Miss Young, can I go back to my class? And I said, you think you're ready to go back? And he said, yes, I'm ready. I'm going to follow instructions. And I said, okay, well, let's let you go back. So I watched him go back to the classroom, and I said, all right, make sure you let me know how how things go. He said, okay. And I had to walk into that classroom a little bit later, and he walked up to me. I'm going to try not to cry. He walked up to me and he hugged me and he said, my favorite teacher. And I'm thinking, I just met this child 2 days ago. We've known each other all of not even 24 full hours, but 2 teaching classes. And I'm saying that because so often we do not walk out what our divine purpose is. And so I said, your favorite teacher, I looked at him and I said, oh my goodness, I'm so honored. How would I be able to become your favorite teacher? And I went home last night and I was thinking about like strategies that I can use to encourage him. Like, I can't imagine what it's like to be a child that, for most of the time, what it's like when you make bad decisions. You know what it's like when you don't do the right thing. You know what that feels like. But what it tells me is he liked the way it felt to know that somebody saw the good in him. And that's all any of us want. We all want someone to see the good in us, to see the positive in what we do, to see how we are encouraging, how we do have some positive components. And so I'm saying that to you because sometimes we're trying to walk out what somebody else's destiny is. And if we all walk out our portion of what we are supposed to be doing in the earth, it makes life a whole lot easier. It makes life a whole lot better. It changes the trajectory of how we are able to operate amongst one another. So I'm saying that to you is that I know I have at least 2 or 3 students that if I wasn't sent into this building for anybody else, I was sent here for these 3 students this year. And it is important that I am able to tap into that component that will help me to understand what my purpose is in their life. And if I am able to fulfill that portion of what God has called me to do, then I've done what I was called to do for this portion of my mission. And we have to know who we are in order to be able to accomplish what we are supposed to do. So what I will say to you today, I did a video last week and I did release that video, and that video was talking about don't abort the purpose, don't abort the promise because of the process. I think it was something like that. And we have to remember that we can't give up in the process just because it's hard, just because it's difficult. I knew it was going to be challenging teaching in this particular school. I knew I was going to have some scholars that were coming back from alternative school. I knew that that was the environment that I was going into. Now, I'm not equipped. Somebody asked me, do you want to go to the alternative school? I said, oh, no, I'm not equipped for that. I don't think I can do that every day with the whole class. No, but I am equipped for this. And so I will say to you, what are you equipped for? What is it that God has called you to do? Or who is it that God has called you to impact that you have or have not been following through with what it is that God has called you to do? So this morning was just a short video. I'm here. I got here about almost 50 minutes early. And I get here early, guys, because if you don't, the traffic in Atlanta is just so horrible. It's either you're going to be early or you're going to be late. And so I just decided that I prefer to, sit here like I'm doing now. I got about 40 minutes to play with before I'm actually even due in the building. And I got time to sit here and chat with y'all. So I want you to make sure that you honor what God has called you to do. And I know for a fact that God has called me to this building for this season. And this building is closing. I think I shared that with you guys. This is the final year that these students will be here. Like, I am speaking that into to their lives. I'm reminding them that you are the last promoting class that will come out of this building. How can we maximize that and go out of here with a bang? Like, how can we have the highest test scores that have ever come through this building? And when we shut this building down, they know us for the legacy that we left based upon the legacy that has already been here. And when you are able to empower people that way, because that might not be your calling. Like, your calling may not be to empower someone, but your calling might be to feed somebody. Your calling might be to bring someone into a place of enlightenment. Your calling may be to give a person, rides back and forth to a particular place. Like, each one of us has something different that we are called to do. And it's not how big it is or what big stage that we have to do it on. Because I don't know if God will ever put me on a stage where I'm talking to thousands. But there are times that some of my videos have been where there have been thousands of people that have watched it. So do what you're supposed to do in the time that you're supposed to do it in, and then also be in the place that you're supposed to be, because then God is going to get the glory out of that at that particular time. So if nothing else, guys, I want to just let you know that be who you're supposed to be and be where you're supposed to be, and continue to walk out your journey, because God is with you regardless to how it looks. I was so encouraged by that child's response. Like, for him to say that, I know it meant a lot to him. So today I have to capitalize on that. We got to take it to a whole nother level. I'm trying to think, like, what kind of chips does he likes. I think on Friday I'm just gonna show up with a big box of potato chips. They love stuff like that, and some Capri Suns. And everybody gonna be on point. You pass your test, you do good behavior, you get to come over here and pick out what you want out the box. And little things like that. So I might spend $25, $30, and it will be something that those scholars will be talking about next week. And they'll be like, Miss Young, you gonna do that again? We really like it when you do this right here. Now, there are times that I have to do punishment. I had to have silent lunch with them, and they didn't like it, because they don't like it when you have to punish them as well. But I also teach them, hey guys, maybe you might need to just come back and say I'm sorry. So I've had a couple of students that they come back later on, they say, Miss Young, I'm sorry for my behavior. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to correct that. Because we are teaching them how to grow and develop. And so I just want to let you guys know that I want you to be encouraged. Make sure that you are on your point of what God has called you to do. And then make it a great day on purpose. So, and thank you. I see a few of you that chimed in. Hello, how are you? I see that. I'm doing great. And I hope that you are as well. And thank you guys for the hearts and the stars that came forth. All right, y'all. Have an awesome day on purpose. Bye.